60 miles from the nearest ocean, in a place where nothing should be alive, a single egg sits balanced on the feet of a starving bird. If it slips, even for a second, it dies. The father holding it hasn't eaten in over 100 days. He can barely stand. Around him, 10,000 others do the exact same thing, swaying in total darkness, battered by winds that would kill an unprotected human in 2 minutes flat. This is not a metaphor. This is a Tuesday in Antarctica. And somehow, impossibly, it works. This is the story of how the most unlikely birds on Earth cracked a code that nature never intended to be solved. Antarctica is, at its heart, a lie. It looks like a frozen wasteland, a white void where nothing stirs. But beneath that stillness hides one of the most violent environments the planet has ever produced. Less than 2 inches of snow fall per year in the interior, making it drier than the Sahara. Winds scream past 60 miles per hour, dragging wind chills below -100 degrees Fahrenheit. At those temperatures, exposed flesh freezes in under 2 minutes. Blood thickens, nerves shut down. The body doesn't slowly fail, it collapses. The ice itself is alive in the worst possible way. It shifts, cracks, buckles, and swallows whatever stands on it too long. Coastal sea ice can vanish overnight. Glaciers calve skyscraper-sized chunks into the ocean without warning. Nothing here is solid. Nothing here is safe. And yet, more than 12 million penguins call this place home. They don't just survive Antarctica, they chose it. Emperor penguins are the architects of the impossible. While every other creature on the continent flees toward warmth when winter arrives, emperors walk straight into it. They leave the coast and march inland, sometimes over 60 miles, just as the sun vanishes and temperatures plummet toward their annual worst. The logic behind this apparent madness is brutally precise. Sea ice reaches its maximum extent during winter. That frozen platform becomes the only surface stable enough to support a colony of tens of thousands. If they waited for summer, the ice would fracture beneath them. Their chicks would hatch into the open ocean, so they gamble everything in the cold. Each female lays exactly 1 egg, 1 chance, 1 life. And then comes the moment that defines the entire species, the transfer. She must pass that egg to the male without it ever touching the ice. A fumble of even a few seconds and the embryo freezes. Once the handoff is complete, they part ways. The female begins her long walk back to the sea to feed. The male stays behind. He will not eat again for 4 months. His body enters a kind of controlled collapse. Metabolism slows. Fat reserves burn down. His weight drops to nearly half of what it was. And through it all, he holds that egg on his feet, tucked beneath a fold of warm skin, completely still, while the worst storms on the planet howl around him. But he does not face them alone. Emperor penguins have engineered one of the most elegant survival systems in all of nature, the huddle. It looks like a crowd. It is actually a machine. Thousands of birds press together and rotate in slow, constant waves. No penguin stays on the outer edge for long. No leader directs the movement. The group simply breathes as one organism. Inside the huddle, temperatures climb to nearly 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Just inches away on the exposed side, the air is -80. Life persists in that razor-thin gap between warmth and death. Months pass in this rhythm, darkness, wind, silence, and then, from beneath the feathers of an emaciated father, comes a sound so small it almost doesn't exist, the first cry of a newly hatched chick. The females return just in time, navigating a colony of thousands to find their own partner and chick using nothing but a unique vocal signature that cuts through the roar. Once the chick is safely transferred, the males, skeletal, swaying, barely conscious, begin their walk to the sea. Not all of them make it. Those who do plunge into the water and feed with a kind of desperate urgency that borders on violence. Their trial is over, but for the chicks born onto ice in the coldest place on Earth, survival is just beginning. And then the planet tilts, the light returns, first as a pale blue thread along the horizon, then as a slow flood that softens the ice and loosens winter's stranglehold. Shadows shorten, colors bleed back into existence. Antarctica exhales. Beneath the breaking sea ice, sunlight penetrates the water for the first time in half a year, and the ocean responds with an eruption so vast it is visible from space. Phytoplankton bloom in swirling green galaxies across the surface. Krill follows, billions of them, forming the single most important link in the Southern Ocean food chain. Everything that breathes down here depends on that one tiny creature. The timing is merciless. Krill needs the thaw, predators need the krill, and penguins need both. If any part of that sequence breaks, the entire system falters. The coastlines come alive. Adelie penguins storm ashore to build pebble nests in furious territorial disputes. Gentoo penguins arrive from deep ocean feeding trips, seeking ice-free shorelines. Chinstrap penguins time their arrival with exact precision, matching their arrival to the exact peak of krill abundance. Too early, and their chicks starve. Too late, and the adults do. Every nest, every migration, every hatch is synchronized to the ocean's pulse, and the ocean this year is different. 1,000 miles north on a sub-Antarctic island called South Georgia, king penguins write a completely different survival story. Over 500,000 of them pack the beaches of St. Andrews Bay in a living carpet of black, white, and gold. Their breeding cycle stretches beyond 14 months, so slow that some pairs skip entire years. They don't march through blizzards or huddle against hurricane winds. They wager on stability, accessible oceans, reliable food, and a climate that doesn't swing between extremes. It is a gentler bet, but it is still a bet. Farther out, on wind-carved cliffs and storm-battered islands, rockhopper penguins leap through violent surf and scale vertical rock faces to reach nests no predator can touch. Magellanic penguins dig underground burrows to raise their young in darkness. Macaroni penguins cling to slopes so steep and wet they seem impossible to inhabit. Each species has written its own contract with the edge of the world. Each one pays a different price. But the edge is moving. The Antarctic Peninsula is warming faster than almost anywhere on Earth. Glaciers are retreating. Sea ice is forming later and breaking earlier. Adelie colonies that thrived for generations are shrinking because the rhythm they evolved to follow no longer exists. Gentoo penguins are pushing south into territory that was once too frozen for them. Chinstrap populations are declining as krill numbers drop. The system is not collapsing all at once. It is rearranging, quietly, relentlessly, and not every species will find a place in the new order. Penguins have survived for millions of years by mastering the most extreme conditions life can offer. They turned the coldest, darkest, most hostile continent into a nursery. They built living machines out of feathers and patience and hunger. But the rules they mastered are being rewritten, and for the first time in their long evolutionary history, the changes might be arriving faster than adaptation allows. The ice is still there, the colonies still gather, the chicks still call, but the margins are thinner now, and the question hanging over every frozen rookery in the Southern Ocean is no longer whether penguins can survive the cold, it is whether they can survive us. If this story kept you watching until now, you already care more about these birds than most people ever will. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. Drop a like if this changed the way you see the bottom of the world. And share this with someone who needs to hear it, because the more people who understand what is happening down there, the harder it becomes to look away.